Hello, today I want to talk about an TIPX magazine speed loader that I made. It's not really different from any other speed loader, but I was using the speed loaders from two different ones from that I used in the past last time. And I did had some trouble with feeding it. Well, basically fine, and with later some research, it was not really necessarily the design of the speed loaders themselves that was not working fine for me, but it happened to be something that is different in the later designs of the 12 round TPX magazines. But still, I ended up with a design that I made myself. If you if you happen if you happen to like it, you can find the download link below. This one works with just let's say pulling the spring back below. So in some case you need to use a stick, push the spring follower down, and then it's a case of not so much paint left, so it's a little bit noisy, but yeah. In the case of the 7-round magazines, you need to hold the mag follower, the mag head, I call it usually, down. Otherwise it can happen that it will fly up. This is all to do with that if you compare to Zeta mag, 12-round mag, 7-round mag, they all have different tolerances with one button they got in the back. It does do two functions with the TPX magazines. It opens the door and releases a spring. And with some of the magazines it will happen to be at a different sweet spot than the other. What they all both do is first open the door a little bit before they activate with the spring. But the thing is, sometimes it is not opening enough, and that's the case with the newer 12 round magazine. So the real issue here is, and the fix, so you could technically use it on different magazines as well, is that this is the older type. This costs just on a round bar right here. And this one uses, normally it would be a straight thing, and it's more like a flat, let's say, fingers that go over it. In order to make this one able to speed load, you can see that I made a little bit of a rounded shape in it. So when you are, let's say, speed loading it, it will open up a little bit like this, and that's enough for the balls to pass through without activating it all the way, and also let the mag head fly out. And that is kind of the thing that mainly was the issue. By making that mod, I have not later tested it out with other magazine loaders, because they're already getting old and things like that, so I'm happy with my own design. But that can maybe help some other people who have kind of trouble speed loading those magazines, because for what I really have tested, you cannot speed load those 12-round magazines without having the mag head flipping up. Because by the time the thing is totally gone, it will technically also activate the spring. So it will jump the spring up and it will push all the paint out. So to have that sweet spot that it opens but not deactivate the spring, so it, at least the lock, so the spring will fly out. It's better to modify the top, and for what I have seen, especially for me, I just use round ball. This doesn't hinder the performance of it. I don't really know why they even made a change. Maybe it was for the first strike. Maybe that is not good if you do that, but for what I've seen, it still rests on the fins, things like that. Maybe that is done so the the door will open when the spring is activated, so it doesn't cause it to flip or something like that. Maybe. So maybe if you want to use for first strike, don't do this mod. I'm not sure. It must have a good reason, because why make the effort to change the part otherwise? But yeah, in order to speed load it, and if you just use it for round ball like I do, then you could do that like me, and it should be all fine. It's just a little bit, just enough for the. You can basically see it by if you pull. If the mag head is up, you just make sure that that pin can kind of pass through it. This should be enough for the paint to go past it. But more on the mag loader. It's a design that's not totally original or something like that, but it's got a finger inside. Hope you can see that. And that makes it an automatic locking design. So it's just when you push it in, it will push the detent away, and paint can fall out. When you pull the magazine out, it will close itself again, so it will automatically close. And yeah, this is basically the same magcloth shape I do with the pouches, and let's say also the mag adapters. It's only shorter. So yeah, it's got the same fit. So nothing wrong with there. And how to make it? You will need a spring to place that one behind the detent. I don't know, recall the details, but I will put it below. And in order to lock the detent in place, you will place the one, and that's kind of the hard job, I guess, is to place the spring and the detent in place. And then you can just take a piece of filament, put it in the hole, and just use some, let's say in something that's hot to melt it in place, so it's nice and flush. Or you could just cut it off and glue it in place with a piece of filament in the same color, so you don't see a thing. I messed it up a little bit by using a dirty iron that already got some black on it, and that black pigment was getting on the plastic. So in my case you do see a thing, but if you do it with a nice clean one, then it should be yeah, nice and even. And of course attach a bolt to it. It's basic. I will show it on a picture, that makes more sense to say it. Then you can clamp it down, and that's it. Yeah, in the case of the 7 round, I will demonstrate it. If you don't hold it back, you'll, yeah, I don't know if it shows it right, but if you don't hold the spring head back, it will fly up if you push it too much. So it's best practice to just use your finger there and just fill it up like that. So then the spring head will not fly up. And of course, if you lift it up, then you can release that one. This is the old type of the 7 round. 12 rounder. Yeah, that one you need to push the last ball in a little bit in, but it's there. Okay, this is the newer type. Yeah, just enough. Oh, what happened there? It was a little bit off. But yeah. So that's the newer type. And this is the old model. The Zeta Max, they don't work. But yeah, then the Zeta Max are a different beast altogether. They need to be pressed all the way on the button that opens the door. And in the case of the Zeta Max, that's the only thing that there's no spring activation. Let's put it that way. But the problem with the Zeta Max is they have a different. They need to be pushed all the way, and whereas let's say the Tippmann magazines, they must be pushed in, let's say halfway to not activate the spring. So it's kind of like you need to make it Zeta Max edition or a Tippmann edition. For me, I don't really care about Zeta Max, so I can demonstrate it, but it doesn't work. And if you really want, you can kind of make it work, but it's not easy because this will you need to push the top part kind of down with a depth, and that's not really ideal at all. So just let you know, it's not made for the Zeta Max. But as you can see, it can be done. But it's kind of, it feels a little bit like you're breaking the Zeta Max, I guess. It's not feels like it should be done. Kind of need to wiggle it a little bit. And it's not a definition of speed loading at all. In this case, this one doesn't want to do it. No. So, no, this is not really made for Zeta Max. And I hope I explained why. Because then it needs to be a Zeta Max exclusive one. And I don't know how that goes with all the other ones from Milsig. I have totally no idea about that. So that's the thing you need to keep in mind with speed loading TIPX magazines in general. They have different tolerances. So you kind of need to fine tune it for, if you don't want to have it that you have to hold it back, then you can only load 7 rounders. If you want to have the perfect model for, let's say, the 12 rounders, then you need to specify it for that one. And as I found out, in a way, without modding, you cannot speed load the new 12 rounders. So that's why I showed you that you need to modify it with surrounding with a round shape at the top. This one got a little bit of bigger shape. You can see they differ a little bit with the shape, but I've both tested them and they work and they hold the paint, things like that. So it's not really that precise that you need to be, but that's kind of the thing. What you kind of want to check is like when it's opening, that when making the mods, it's kind of what you really want to make care of is when you press it a little bit, that then that shape is rounded for the shape, so then something can pass through it. So it's not like just make it straight down like this. You can put a little bit in an angle, because when it goes like this, then at least should be straight down and not in an angle like this. If that makes any sense at all, it's like so.